Guess what's next? I would like to formally introduce Reverend Ken Fendrick.
Well, thank you. I'm not used to seeing my picture like that. I almost scared myself. I would like to thank my colleague and friend, Reverend Robin, and the board of directors for inviting me up to this lovely community. I've known about you all for so long, and I've known some awesome people that have attended this community that you have, and it's just a pleasure to be here for my first time. So thank you for being so welcoming when I first showed up, and I look forward to getting to know you all a little bit more afterwards. And this being close to Valentine's Day, I thought, a good topic is love. Love it never gets old, right? It's something, there's many different kinds of love. And so I was watching this movie called Pay It Forward. Anybody familiar with that movie? It was like in the 90s, had Haley Joel Osment. And so it's about a kid. And he has this teacher, and he gets inspired to do these kind of like random acts of kindness. But it's receiving something, he receives something from somebody, and you don't pay it back to them in kind. You pay it forward to another person. And so the theory behind it is, of course, that exponentially it goes on and on and on, blessing so many people. So I was thinking about this in light of, kindness and everything else, but what if we took it a step further? What if we expanded this idea of love? Divine love, and we loved it forward, took it to the next level. And Jesus Christ, our way shower, demonstrated this type of loving over and over and over again throughout the Gospels. He loved forwardly, he loved fully, and in the words of Bishop Spong, he loved wastefully. I love that idea, loving wastefully. Just want you to have that picture inside your head, because this is the type of love we're talking about. So Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, actually, wait, let me back up 1 second. I almost forgot. Somebody said it was a special day today, right? Yeah, is there something big going on today?
Well, no, you're here.
Oh, well, besides that special.
Super Bowl?
Very good. You got the Green Bay Packers represented here. And I said to somebody, I haven't been as much into the Super Bowl since the Chargers left, San Diego. I know, boo-hoo. But anyway, it is Super Bowl Sunday, and it's a time for, whether we're into football or not, a lot of us are maybe gathering with friends or someplace, and just experiencing the fellowship. So what I wanted to do is I started looking, I was writing my talk, but then all of a sudden it was like, wait a second. The game of football has a lot to do with what we're talking about today. And I never thought about the metaphysics in football, but yes, there are metaphysics in football.
Oh dear.
So I digress. I want to back up and really go into what a definition of love is before we get into this deeper esoteric meaning of football and what that means. Are y'all with me? Y'all following me? All right, just stay with me. I know Reverend Ken is not going to go off on some crazy tangent, just a slight tangent. But in the revealing word, Charles Fillmore states, divine love is impersonal. It loves for the sake of loving. It is not concerned with what or who it loves, nor with the return of love. Like the sun, its joy is in the shining forth of its nature. Love is an inner quality that sees good everywhere and in everybody. It insists that all is good, and by refusing to see anything but good, it causes that quality finally to appear in the uppermost in itself and in all things. Love is the great harmonizer and the great healer. Again, that comes from the revealing word of Charles Fillmore. And our scripture for today, beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. And this comes from 1 John chapter 4, verse 7. And lastly, In contemplating this definition of love, I really cannot find any better explanation than in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. This gives the best overview as far as I know. And I know it's a little cliche because we hear it a lot at weddings and occasions like that, but the words are so rich and so meaningful, and it really stands out on its own. And this is the gift of love. If I speak in tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have all faith so as to remove mountains but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions and I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly. But when we will see face to face, now I know only in part, I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now, faith, hope, love, abide, these three. The greatest of these is love. Just let that soak in for a second. And what I love about this passage, not only it defines the quality of love, but also, what it's like to be a spiritually mature individual. That on this walk, as we come to know love in a different way, we come to know love beyond our worldly senses, before our senses, or what we sense love is, but to this greater love, this compassionate love, this unending love, this full love, this radical love of what it's like to not only love others, but dare I say this, love ourselves. So what I'd like to do, I promised you the metaphysics of football, right? So I brought a little prop here. All right, and I'm no Tom Brady by any means. But I want to illustrate this idea of divine love in the context of football. And I look at this football, and I look at this as divine love. There's qualities we talked about of patience, of kindness, of forgiveness, of forbearance. This football represents these things. And if we think of ourselves like an NFL quarterback, right? I look at Christ in us, that spiritual essence in us as the quarterback. Now, quarterback, Jesus Christ, the greatest of all time. Tom Brady's got nothing on this guy, or this presence in us. It's a power that we know we pull everything from, just like one power, one presence active in the universe in my life, right? We just had that as our affirmation, but also what? The second principle, that this power is in us as the Christ, that we have that seed in us. So this ball represents the divine love. And so as the quarterback, the first thing, what do we have to do? What's the first thing a quarterback does when he gets behind the line?
And figure out when to release it.
He's got to receive the ball. We have to be able to receive love before we can give it. And that goes back to this idea of self-love. We have to be empty vessels. We have to be able to receive that divine love and view it, because really the divine love is already in us, but a lot of times it's blocked from expression. Our experiences, our doubts, our fears, our worries, our beliefs about ourselves. We block that flow of love. Because divine love, it always wants to express. It wants to go forward. It wants positive yardage. Right? That quarterback he doesn't want to go backwards by any means. No, that quarterback, that divine love in us wants to send those attributes forward. So when we want to move forward in this, we're always seeking to pass this, right? So I want to put kindness out. There you are. I'm throwing you some kindness. Or maybe I want to hand off some compassion to you. I sense that. Maybe you need some compassion. I want to hand that off to you. And guess what? You're going to love it forward. You're going to take this ball, this divine, and what are you going to do? You're not going to run backwards towards me. You want to move that forward. So again, we're loving it forward. Loving it forward. And again, we always want positive yardage out of this. So again, we need to receive. We need to be able to receive love first. And remember, involution always precedes evolution. That means love begins as an inside job. Again, we have to be able to love ourselves. And that involves a little bit of work sometimes. Maybe we have to do some reflection on, our relationships, or, things that, the popular word nowadays is trigger us. But a lot of times triggers are kind of wake-up calls. They're little alarm bells saying, hey, there's something we need to work on here in our spiritual journey. So maybe it's worthy of a little more exploration. Because what? We want to be the greatest quarterbacks of all time. We want to enable that quarterback, that Christ in us, to do its job, to win the game, to move forward, to move this yardage forward. Because what I look at this as love is not put, in the words of Catherine Ponder, love wasn't put in your heart to stay. Love isn't love until you give it away. So we always want to move. Love is designed to be in circulation. If we don't give love, we don't receive love. So what happens when we try and hold on to love? What happens to a quarterback when he wants to keep the ball all to himself? Right? There's probably a 400-pound angry lineman that wants some quarterback, and he's going to take a big fall. And that's kind of what happens when we hold on to stuff, right? When we hold on our stuff and we can't love, we've got the ball, we're crouched down and we're getting pummeled by these. And the lineman can represent what? Those doubts, those fears, those worries, those outside circumstances, right? Those situations maybe with family or work or life that come at us, that just are chasing us down, and we're, oh my gosh, running around. So when we hold on to it, we limit ourselves. So what does a quarterback normally do? He can scramble, right? He can dodge, but what happens after a while? He gets a little tired, right? And all his teammates are trying to, hey, throw me the ball. But what does he have to do sometimes? He takes that ball, he looks around, he assesses his situation. And this is a lot of times what we have to do in our life. We have this stuff, we assess the situation, but sometimes we need to get rid of it. We need to throw it out of bounds or something. And so this is an illustration of what it is to release. Release, forgiveness is so important. Forgiveness and love are like twins. You can't have one without the other. You can't have love, you can't express Christ's love or the love of God if we're holding something in our hearts, that's causing us blockage. And sometimes we don't even realize it's there. We might have thought we've forgiven that relative of ours years ago whom we haven't talked to in a long, long time. You're like, well, I'm so over that, and I've forgiven him. But when you're talking about it, your voice rises a little bit, your blood pressure starts to go up. Those are warning signs. Those are signs that tell you, hey, you're still triggered, right? That popular word. You're holding on to that football. Maybe it's time to, maybe it's time to simply throw that thing out of bounds. Thank you. And that's the other thing. We're not limited to one football. You ever notice what happens like when a play is over, a play's blown dead, and they're not looking around for one football, right? They're not going all over. Where'd that football go? We got to go find it. Did it go in the stands? Did somebody run off with it? No, what happens? Usually somebody arrives. The little guy in this white and black striped shirt comes up and he gives the quarterback another ball. Well, that's what we have. As our spiritual center, as Christ, we have unlimited capacity to love. Remember in our meditation we said we are vessels, right? We're vessels of God's love. And so this football, we have unending footballs. We can throw these things all day, even if they never come back to us. But guess what? When we put these things out there, when I'm throwing that pass of love, when I'm throwing that pass of kindness, when I'm handing off a little compassion, guess what? It magnetizes and it returns back to me. Sometimes in larger quantities than what I put out there. And again, I got pretty good hands today. Again, we're always moving this ball. This love, we're loving forward. I love that winter dry weather we have here. So, again, this idea of passing, loving forward, as compassion, as kindness, as forbearance, as all those different spiritual attributes, like this football. Don't be afraid to pass. Don't be afraid to hand it off. Loving forward isn't about always giving things, material things. It's more about being present and doing the small things. Maybe it's a kind word. Maybe it's a simple gesture. Maybe it's at the supermarket. Maybe it's here at the community center. But it doesn't have to be the big Hail Mary pass that goes for 90 yards. It could be the simple 2-yard juke. As long as love is moving forward and being expressed, it's happy. We're progressing and we're growing. And I just want to read that quote again. Love wasn't put in your heart to stay. Love isn't love until you give it away. There was an author, poet, named Mary Rita Shilke Corzan, who wrote a poem. She wrote this to her mother, 24, well, it's probably a few more years than 24 now. But she wrote a poem to her mother thanking her for all she'd done as a mother. And I love this poem because it so illustrates this idea of what it means to love forward. And for those of you who have kids or grandkids, you'll probably recognize a lot of things in this poem, and you have an object lesson into what it's like to love forward. The poem's titled, When You Thought I Wasn't Looking. I saw you feed a stray cat, and I learned that it was good to be kind to animals. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you make my favorite cake for me, and I learned that the little things can be special things in life. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you make a meal and take it to a friend who was sick, and I learned that we all have to help to take care of each other. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you give of your time and money to help people who had nothing, and I learned that those who have something should give to those who don't. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you take care of our house and everyone in it, and I learned that we have to take care of what we are given. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw how you handled your responsibilities, and even when you didn't feel good, and I learned that I would have to be responsible when I grew up. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw that you cared, and I wanted to be everything that I could be. When you thought I wasn't looking, I learned that most of life's lessons, that I need to know to be good and productive person. When you thought I wasn't looking, I looked at you and wanted to say thanks for all the things I saw when you thought I wasn't looking. Loving it forward, the little things. And when we think nobody's looking, it's beyond, again, the kindness, the simple paying for a cup of coffee forward, but loving forward. Giving of yourself, being in the moment, recognizing the opportunities. And being open to being a vessel of love and letting that inner QB, that Christ presence of love be in you and run the game, run the table. Throwing those deep balls, throwing those short balls, blessing many as you move down the field of life. So I leave you the quote from Catherine Ponder. In every situation or experience or circumstance, love is always available. Love is always the answer. Love is always the best place to proceed. So you're always able to start over again in love. And that, my friends, is simple grace. Namaste.